Hello. I'm delighted to say we're joined today by Dr. Janine Krippner, one of my favourite people on Twitter at the moment, who's doing some fantastic science communication work. So we thought we'd have a quick chat with her and find out her views on a few bits and pieces. Janine, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's very good to speak to you.
Good to see you. I just wanted to ask you, first of all, science communication. It's really important, isn't it?
Yes,
it's not just about researching. You have to know how to talk about your subject, don't you?
Absolutely, and I think it's becoming more important, especially with volcanoes. More people are traveling to volcanoes that might not live near the volcano and know the local hazards. So it's becoming much more important.
So with science communication, obviously there's a massive responsibility, isn't there? So scientists have to learn not only how to communicate their findings, but how to communicate with a scientific and non-scientific community, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it's becoming more important. With volcanoes, we have more people who are traveling to volcanoes, so people who aren't used to the local hazards or know what to do. We also have the internet, 24-hour online media and social media. So misinformation gets out much faster and travels much further than the right information does.
Absolutely, and it can have quite a devastating effect on a place if things are misreported. For example, from our point of view, we have a recurring story in a slow news month about, when is they're going to explode, or when is La Palma going to fall into the sea and collapse into the sea and wipe out the eastern seaboard. Although these are things that are possibilities in a scientific timeline, it doesn't mean to say that it justifies saying this is a danger tomorrow and actually creating problems for people who live there, would you say?
Yes, there are two main aspects of that. The first one is tourism. People's livelihoods depend on tourism in areas like this, and if people are scared away, that can suffer. Now, this is important. It's people putting food on their tables, people feeding their children. And the second aspect is that if people keep crying wolf and nothing happens, are they actually going to listen to us when something does?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And have you had examples of that in other countries, in other situations of that?
There was the Agung crisis in Bali in Indonesia starting last September, and there was a lot of horrendous fear-mongering in the tabloids, especially UK tabloids. And so 2 months before the volcano actually erupted, a lot of people were scared away from the island, which relies heavily on tourism, and the local economy and the people in it suffered.
So yeah, that's a really interesting example, because that's when we first noticed the work that you were doing, and you really came to prominence, I think, in terms of your social media presence, the work that you did on Agung. Would you be able to talk us through a little bit what you were trying to achieve with your reporting, the things you felt were important, the things you felt you did well, perhaps things you would do differently another time?
Yeah, so I joined Twitter in 2013. So when I started tweeting about Agung, I didn't think anything was going to be different. I had no idea what was going to happen or the attention that my information was going to be getting. On the 22nd of September, a friend of mine from New Zealand who was in Bali messaged me asking what was going on. He was getting misinformation or bad headlines from New Zealand and Australia saying the volcano was going to explode and the air traffic was about to be shut down, which was not true at that point. And so I started doing a bit of digging and realized that people had no idea where to get the right information from. And when they did, there were several key terms that were mistranslated. And so the wrong ideas and wrong messages were getting out there. So Agung is a potentially deadly volcano. It killed over 1,100 people in the 60s. And in those situations, it's crucial that people have the right information and know who the authorities are. So I just started translating the official information from the authorities using Google Translate, plus my volcanology knowledge into English, and getting that out there, as well as general information on volcanic hazards and what people can do to stay safe. So that worked pretty well. Something that I think worked very well was I got in touch with a lot of other scientists and communication people, emergency managers, volcanologists around the world. In fact, for the first month that I kept count, I was in contact with over 60 people. So it was important to make sure that everything I said was accurate and well said. So if I was to give anyone advice, it would be never do anything like this alone. Have a support team, talk to other people, get feedback, constantly get feedback. Ask people, is what I'm saying okay?
That's fantastic. And presumably now you have been involved in the Kilauea reporting. You didn't have the issue of language, which I think might maybe helped. Yes. But did you find that the information that was coming out for Kilauea was better or was different? Or did you still have a role to play in interpreting what was coming out and helping in that respect?
The information that has been coming out of Kilauea, so from the United States Geological Survey plus the local civil defence, has been excellent.
Yeah.
But there is always people who want more explanations on what the hazards actually are. People like to hear things in different ways from different voices, and the media also like to get different opinions on what's going on. So there is still a big need for other people to be communicating accurately.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that people like me can do that the local official authorities can't. Like, for example, smacking down rumors in a snarky or sarcastic way, they can't do that. So there is a need for different voices to reach different people.
Janine, of course, we're currently experiencing a new geohazard at Fuego volcano. And again, this is in a different territory. It seems to be a particularly nasty eruption. I know it's affected you personally because there has been already a human cost. We're only a short time into the eruption when we recorded this interview, so we don't know when it'll finish or how. But what are your immediate thoughts on how the communication has been run for this current crisis at Fuego?
The information coming out of the authorities has been very good. I've seen, very quickly, I saw multiple announcements and updates from the authorities that were shared on social media as well, and they have quite big followings, which is important. It's important to have this trust in these relationships with your communities before anything happens. So that is good. We have the same issue again with the translation issues. So English media outlets are getting a couple things wrong, which happens. So there is still a need for different voices and different languages to be sharing this information.
Very good. And actually what I really like about the work that you do, Janine, is that you don't only focus on these actual crises, but you do lots of work in between. For example, the Volcano Cup that you ran, it was a bit of fun, but also there was a serious point to it as well, wasn't there?
Yes. So the Volcano Cup was taking, I can't remember how many volcanoes now, but volcanoes around the world, and having people cheering on their favorite volcano with facts and information. So the main point was to raise awareness of volcanic hazards, risk, and what people can do, so preparedness measures. I decided I would do this partly because of what I was seeing at Agung, just the lack of what we would consider basic volcanology knowledge that is prevalent around the world. But also, one of my flatmates came home and said that a student had commented that there are no volcanoes in Oregon. In Oregon, there are volcanoes everywhere you can see. It's very hard to miss them. And the current political climate over here was at the time attacking science funding. So I wanted to raise awareness of volcanoes and hazards, especially in the US, but globally as well.
That's a really interesting point, because one of the things we try to impart to our students is that when you're scientists, you do often depend on funding, either for your PhD or, for example, the scientists that they work with at Involcan depend on public funding, crucially, for everything that they do in one form or another. So they have to be good not only at the research that they do, but also at communicating it so that they can continue to rely on that support from the authorities and continue to get that funding. So there's lots of different reasons why communicating science is important, isn't there?
Yes, and if you're communicating science, you might save someone's life. So there is the funding aspect of learning more about these processes, installing monitoring equipment to be able to warn people, but it's also getting the information straight to the people who might need it one day as well. So there's a whole range of levels of why this is so crucial.
And we've certainly found in the past that it's not always the best scientific theory that gets the most attention. I think that's a polite way of pushing it.
Yeah.
So being able to talk authoritatively, is that the word, about your findings and research in a way that people engage with you will get you more attention as well, won't it?
Yes, and I think it's also important to preempt what might catch the attention. So, for example, if you study any kind of big caldera volcano like Yellowstone, you really need to think ahead and think, okay, what might the media grab out of this and address that straight away. So it's not just about clearly communicating what you have done, but it's thinking what might be construed about this and how can I address this straight up so this does not cause a media storm.
Absolutely. And also to get the attention to understand how the media works. You have to think, what's the headline that's going to come out of this? And you have to ensure that A, you get the attention, but B, the right sort of attention, right?
Yes, exactly. The way that media works and the way that we work as scientific writers or communicators is very different. And so working with the media more, especially if you're giving written answers, you can start to gauge what kind of keywords or phrases might be pulled out as a quote. And you have to be careful that knowing that anything you put on social media can be taken out of context. So it's important to make sure you include that.
It's one of the reasons why we run specifically a Twitter competition during the month when the students are with us, because I feel that the restricted word count makes you really think about what the central message is about what you're trying to say. I think scientists are brilliant about talking at length in long conferences and giving hour-long presentations, but when you only have to impart one little nugget, you have to work really hard to make sure that nugget is great.
Yes, and we're lucky now. I think we have 280 characters. At the beginning of the Gung crisis, we had 140.
I know.
So there was a lot of cutting words down and threads of information trying to get it all out there. But no, it's good. I mean,
part 1 of 3, part 2 of 3, yes.
Yes, exactly. But communicating in that short way can help you to communicate your hazards in every other aspect of your life as well, because it makes you really think, what is my main point? What is the takeaway point here? And also supplement it with pictures or videos or maps or anything that can help convey that message and the meaning.
That's a really good point, Janine, because you've got a limited amount of characters, you have a few other tools at your disposal, haven't you, that you can use in Twitter to make sure you get the maximum attention. I mean, we always talk about having a fantastic photograph, for example. What other tools have you found are useful to use in Twitter to get attention to the message that you're trying to get across?
Yeah, so if you think about what you like to see, photos, video, maps, all those kind of things that can grab attention and make people pay a couple little more seconds of attention to that and maybe pick up more of a message. It is also very important to me that I include links to good authoritative information sources like USGS or GeoNet in New Zealand or whatever the local authority is in a crisis so that people can go and get more information. So it's very important to add that extra context with whatever you can.
Fantastic. That's really helpful. How did you get started in Twitter? Because I've certainly noticed an evolution in your sort of online persona from the early days to now. But how would you say that your progression has evolved?
I started out just retweeting other people back in 2013. And then I started... volcanoes is something I've been very passionate about for a very long time. So I've always kept an eye on volcanic activity anyway. So I started giving bits of information on volcanoes or volcanic activity or eruptions or updates as well, linking back to those official sites once again. And then it wasn't actually until last year, so about 4 years later, that I started putting more of my personality into the tweets. And what I mean by that, I'm an extrovert. I am
really?
Laughing a lot. Yeah, I don't know if you know this. So I started just putting more of me into my tweets, not just snippets, not just professional wording. I actually started putting me out there, and that really came to a head a couple of months into a gung where I think the press kind of broke me a bit. They were using my tweets, putting them into news articles that were incredibly just full of lies about this situation in a gung. And that was kind of a evolution moment for me where I started putting my more sassy, sarcastic personality out there too to make a point, to say, hey guys, this is not okay. Come on, seriously, think about this. I want to teach you how to spot this BS.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's really where it became, I think it started to attract a lot more attention to the work that you were doing. And I think there's room on Twitter for lots of different types of voices. That's one of the things that I try to speak to the students about as well, and say, you need to find your science voice. Not everybody has the same tone, the same personality, and it won't come out on day one because maybe you're a bit nervous or shy, but you'll get there and actually just get stuck in and give it a go. Very finally, what would be, the students are involved in a competition, what would be your gem, your golden piece of advice to help them succeed and stand out from the crowd?
Good question. I think that would be really take the time to figure out who you want to be on social media. So we all show different aspects of ourselves in everyday life. For me, the things that are really important are not only accuracy, but it's compassion and kindness and being extremely clear when information is bad information, but also promoting when it's good. So that's kind of the part of me that I bring out on social media. And I have my own list of written rules and goals, and I know who my audience is. In the beginning, my audience was other scientists, especially volcanologists, and it evolved to different fields in science. And now it is very much more media and local communities or global online communities. So you can evolve with what your goals are, and that can help you to really channel which voice you want to have.
That's a really good point, because actually the students will find as they evolve within the Twitter world that not everybody is kind, not everybody is accurate, not everybody is careful. There are some pretty cruel people out there, and some keyboard warriors. How do you deal with those?
Yeah, in fact, I've been getting a little more of that over the last week, and that can actually be part of a volcanic crisis too, is when people are exhausted. They've been going through this for quite a while now, and that can come out as attacking one thing that you've said that they've completely misunderstood. And I've got some pretty vicious attacks, not many, but enough over the last week because of that. The first point is to respond with kindness. Don't fuel it. Understand that this person who's attacking you is probably in a difficult position to be attacking you in the first place. And you can just ignore it. You can just block that person and ignore it. You do not have to respond. It is not your responsibility to respond to nastiness.
Fantastic. And to remember, it's not a direct attack on you personally.
It's not about you.
It's not about you, and none of this is about you or me. It's actually about getting that out there and not taking it personally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They have no idea who you are. No idea. This woman had no idea. These people have no idea who I am. Yeah. So they're attacking an idea. They're attacking the situation that they're in. They're lashing out to try and give themselves more power. Quite often people lash out when they feel their power has been taken away. And a crisis like a volcanic eruption can certainly do that.
Fantastic. Janine, thank you very much indeed for your time. And we'll catch up again soon. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Good luck, guys. Have fun.